welcome, and thank you all for attending the UNC Board of Governors January 2018 public comment section. My name is Provost Floyd, and I am a member of the Board of Governors from Dallas, North Carolina. I would like to ask the board members and chancellors to identify themselves to you at this time, starting with Mr. Ramsey.
Randy Ramsey, I'm a member of the Board of Governors, Beaufort, North Carolina.
Kelly Blue, I'm a member of the Board of Governors.
Holmes, Board of Governors, Raleigh.
It's hard to hear. It's hard to hear you. Is the mic's on?
It's not. Jim Holmes, Board of Governors, Raleigh, North Carolina.
Mike Williford, Board of Governors, Fayetteville, North Carolina.
Philip Byers, Board of Governors, Forest City, North Carolina.
And we also have in the audience with us a member of our North Carolina General Assembly. I'm sorry, I blanked out on that. Representative Fraley. I've forgotten, it's been so long ago. Representative Fraley, thank you for being with us today. On behalf of the board and university leadership, I want to let you know that we value the input and opinions of the university community and general public, especially citizens of North Carolina, on issues related to the university. We look forward to these public comment sessions as an opportunity to hear from you. The public comment session is a chance for the board and the president to hear directly from you. Just a quick word about the format. You will notice right away that we will be completely in listening mode when commenters are speaking and will not reply to you. Board members will not be engaging in conversation with speakers or offering comments in response. Before I introduce today's first speaker, we would like to recognize that many of you plan to speak about historical monuments on the university campuses. As many of you likely know, a decision to permanently move a monument generally requires approval by the North Carolina Historical Commission. We understand that the Commission has not yet issued standards or guidance for how it will make these decisions, but it has appointed a committee to study the issue. The Historical Commission's study committee met for the first time this past Monday, and they have said they are collecting information and consulting with experts. The committee plans to receive public input and hopes to report its findings to the full Historical Commission by April 2018. More important information about the committee's activities can be found through the North Carolina Department of Natural and Cultural Resources website. The university is closely monitoring the commission's deliberations and awaits its determinations. With that said, we're going to listen to what you have to say. This is a common format and approach to public comment sessions like this, and it ensures that speakers can be heard. Each speaker will be allotted a maximum of 3 minutes, and a timer can be viewed on the board. You will be following up the comments. We will be following up the comments that we hear with the help of university staff. Individuals who did not register as speakers or who wish to provide their views in writing may submit written information to public@bog.northcarolina.edu. As a reminder, the success of our public comment sessions depends on the respectful engagement of everyone involved. We ask that everyone in attendance observe the board's expectations of decorum. Thank you all for attending, and let's hear from our first registered speaker, who will be Miriam Thompson.
Thank you, board members and legislator and thank you for giving me the opportunity to present public comment. I'm Miriam Thompson. I'm co-chair of the NAACP Local Branch Education Committee. I am also, with my two daughters and soon to be my grandsons, proud recipients of higher public education. Both my daughters, by the way, graduated from UNC. Your public role in protecting the tradition and mission of our public university is weighty. Indeed, you bear a moral oath of office as members of the Board of Governors. That is why we urge you again today to take steps to remove a painful historic artifact from our campus. Silent Sam must no longer endure our silence. My grandsons have learned the true history of this statue, one that you know well. A white supremacist group, the United Daughters of the Confederacy, erected Silent Sam in 1913. Their clear intention was not to honor the dead, but to continue to enslave the living who were non-white. UDC supported the Ku Klux Klan, believed that non-white people should not vote nor attend public schools, including UNC, nor be allowed equal access to juries, housing, transportation, public services, and more. In other words, these white supremacists were determined to continue racial apartheid, Jim Crow, and reverse the tide of history after the Confederacy lost the Civil War. So why do we still need to protect Silent Sam? Instead, our challenge is to redress racial inequality, whose impact my grandsons and friends witness every day. Together, we can inform the Historic Commission. Together, we can change history. Silent Sam does not belong on our cherished public university campus that has struggled to overcome its own racial exclusionary admissions history. Silent Sam represents for our community a viral past. UNC under BOG leadership can lead the way, not just in removing Silent Sam, but assuring the history it represents guides us in our ongoing struggle for a just social order, and our mission to educate our current and future student body to assume the leadership role and civic engagement required to achieve that noble end. Thank you.
Our second speaker is Mario Benavente.
Thank you. My name is Mario Benavente, and I am an undergraduate student at UNC, originally from Fayetteville, North Carolina, and I've been here in Chapel Hill since 2008. In that time, I've become involved with the movement to end Silent Sam's placement at the entrance of our university in McCorkle Place, and have had several occasions where it fell upon folks in our group to stand up to bullies who wanted to end our occupation of that area, bring more awareness. Such occasions that involved threats of gun violence from people outside of our community who are in support of Silent Sam remaining where it stands, instances of racial slurs, homophobic slurs, sexist slurs being hurled at myself and the group members, and most recently being called spoiled. Another insult that we've received from Board of Governors member David Powers, RC, is not present here today. So just like we had to stand up to those bullies, I came here today to stand up to yet another one. Calling us these names and diminishing the work that we're doing, not just as students, but employed individuals who have to carry on not just our own responsibilities, but this responsibility we've taken on to end these symbols of oppression and racism that continue to exist on our campus is not something that spoiled folks take their time to do. It's really the place of the privileged and the spoiled to see a monument that was erected to remind people that the pure Anglo-Saxon race, as it was said by Ms. Julie Carr, who delivered the statement when the statue was erected, that those are the folks that are still in charge of this area. That you're welcome as people of color to build this buildings in this university, but you're not welcome to be students at this university, and you're not welcome to affect positive change at this university. It's not just a block of stone. That's the symbol that we see standing at the entrance, welcoming, or rather not being so welcoming to folks who want to take pride in their university and take pride in the leadership. As I said before, that leadership today, it needs to be the unrelenting work, not just of our group as students, but your work as leadership, not just here, but the General Assembly, to move towards racial equality. We can't stand for the kind of people that want to keep it up, supporting the really hateful positions that we have. That's the side that we want to make sure understands will no longer be tolerated, and that we can do that by removing Silent Sam from rhetorical place. And I hope you'll stand with us in that regard.
Thank you very much. Is Alyssa Bowen.
My name is Alyssa Bowen. I'm a PhD candidate and a teaching assistant at UNC. As a student worker, I am a proud member also of the local UB 150 chapter, union chapter. So I'm here today to speak about UNC's treatment of campus and student workers. As a graduate student, I am currently TAing. Graduate students have twice as much face time with students as and beyond this, as many of our other commenters today will speak about, campus and graduate workers from diverse backgrounds are made to feel that they do not belong, as they have to pass by this monument to a racist society every day. Beyond this, the UNC administration pays $1,700 or $600 a day or $600,000 a year to upkeep this monument to racism. So how is it justifiable is what I want to know, that administrators make six figures, Chancellor Folt makes $700,000, when campus and graduate workers are so overlooked? If you need to ask why we need an active union, why UNC graduate students and student workers need an active union, you have your answer.
Our next speaker is Heather Ann Redding.
Good afternoon. As a member of the community and a resident of Orange County, and someone who has taught in higher education for over a decade, I'm here once again to ask you, the Board of Governors, to take legal steps towards relocating the Confederate monument known as Silent Sam. The legal limitations that have been articulated by this institution are not justification for inaction. You have not even submitted a petition to the North Carolina Historical Commission, which would be the first step towards resolution. In 2015, the NCGA took deliberate measures to make relocating Confederate monuments nearly impossible, under the guise of, quote, patriotism and protecting artifacts of historical significance. Now that the ramifications of that seemingly innocent legislation have come to light, it is time to act. It is time to test the legal limits of this law, and it's time to articulate why you apparently no longer believe Silent Sam poses a threat to public safety, despite posting officers nearly every day, and despite hearing the bullying and the threats that students experience every day at Silent Sam. It appears that there was and still is great confusion and disagreement over critical aspects of the 2015 Monuments Law, and the public demands to know what steps have been taken to clarify UNC's legal authority. In one op-ed written by a member of this board, it was brought to light the ambiguity over the meaning of the word building inspector, who by law can deem a monument a threat to public safety. The only way to test these ambiguous terms is to apply the law and take measures to remove Silent Sam. For the term building inspector to bring this issue to a standstill is ridiculous. To be fair, the 2015 Act offers no procedural guidance regarding requests to relocate monuments of any kind. The Historical Commission, which has sole authority to remove and relocate objects of remembrance, has been stymied by Governor Cooper's request to remove monuments from the grounds of the Capitol building. Unable to decide what to do, they created a study committee to look further into the matter. This process has slowed to a crawl, as this new committee reaches out to more experts for additional input. So I hope you see how the monuments law is doing exactly what it was designed to do, which is to obstruct attempts to relocate Confederate monuments from public property in North Carolina. While the experts decipher the meaning of the law's obscure language, months and months pass with little to nothing accomplished, while the monuments remain in their places of public prominence. And so here at Chapel Hill, Silent Sam remains. And the longer it stands, the longer its offensive and oppressive imagery reminds us of its racist origins. The longer it remains in a public place of prominence, the more it becomes an example of white supremacy and the celebration of the violence done unto Black women, men, and their children. And the longer it stands, the longer it honors the UDC, who are still preaching their lost cause mythology. And the longer it stands, and you ignore the cries to remove it, it hurts the community because we know that you know that it pays homage to the Jim Crow era and validates Julian Carter's dedication message. Please take the steps to remove Silent Sam by petitioning the North Carolina Historical Commission. Thank you.
Next speaker is Michelle Brown.
I've lost my voice. I'm still going to speak. I'd just like to remind you that you're not supposed to be on your phone talking while I'm talking. My name is Michelle Brown. I'm an undergraduate student at UNC. Since August 22nd, I have worked alongside fellow undergraduates, graduate students, faculty, staff, community members, and even an undercover DPS officer to bring awareness to the racist symbol at the front border of our campus, the Confederate monument known as Silent Sam. Through sit-ins, rallies, and silent demonstrations, we have been able to converse with a large portion of the community, and even people from outside of Chapel Hill, about the history of Silent Sam and its connection to white supremacy. We have found that an overwhelming amount of community members, once made aware of the history of Silent Sam and its connection to white supremacy, and made aware that the Confederacy undoubtedly fought to maintain the enslavement and degradation of the Black race, strongly agree that Silent Sam should not only be removed, but that its continued presence at the front of our campus sends the message that white supremacists who erected it intended to send. That our campus, that the Anglo-Saxon race is superior, and that Black people do not belong on our campus. Thus, I was incredibly disturbed to learn that BOG member David Powers said in an email to BOG chair Lou Bissett that student protesters working to remove symbols of hatred from our campus are a bunch of spoiled kids who should have more important things to do than protest a block of stone. Not only do I have more important things to do, but when I haven't been protesting this block of stone, I've been completing a double major at UNC Chapel Hill, working 2 jobs, and I've committed myself to social justice education with youth. If BOG members share concern about our free time, an easy solution would be taking a strong public stance against symbols of violence, hatred, and racism, including Silent Sam, so that the removal process can be sped up. Specifically, I would like Lou Bissett and David Powers to consider whether their positions against student protesters are aligned with their family histories. For example, Bissett's great-great-grandfather, Joseph Bissett, owned at least 4 slaves in 1850 here in North Carolina. Perhaps sympathy for a slave-owning great-great-grandfather begets inappropriate support for a monument honoring the fight to maintain slavery. I would ask the members of the BOG to make a public statement that regardless of family history, that you understand that symbols of racism, hatred, and violence do not belong on our campus. Thus, Silent Sam needs to go.
Our next speaker is Hillary McKenzie.
Good afternoon. My name is Hillary McKenzie, and I'm here to ask you to petition the North
Ms.
Carolina
McKenzie,
Historical Commission.
Please have a seat.
I was born in Chapel Hill and lived in the same house on Old Mill Road for my entire childhood. My grandfather played basketball for Carolina and was the first graduate from UNC in my family, followed by my dad, my mom, my brother. I may have graduated from a sister school in the UNC system, but I'm a Tar Heel born and bred. I'm a product of Chapel Hill. I was educated in her public schools. I learned to ride my bike on her sidewalks. I learned to drive in the parking lot of the Friday Center on Sunday afternoons. The Thanksgiving after my mom died, my dad and I walked miles on campus and were soothed by the streets, buildings, and trees we know so well. My mom's ashes are interred at the United Methodist Church on Franklin Street. The university does not belong to those who govern her. She belongs to her people, all of her people. And we want this statue moved to a more appropriate place where history will not be forgotten and where this statue is not an aggression to those who study here. Failing to let this beloved university evolve with the times and be a place of comfort and security to her students is an abysmal failure to us all. I'm a core team member of the Hate-Free Schools Coalition in Orange County. We were the folks who fought to get the Confederate flag banned in our public school system and won. After 9 months of the public petitioning at every meeting, the Board of Education banned the flag outright. On the Monday following the rally in Charlottesville, where Heather Heyer was murdered under Confederate and Nazi flags. After this eye-opening experience in our county, I ask you, what will it take and how close to home will it have to be for you to acknowledge that symbols of the Confederacy do not belong on this campus? Why is it not enough that students of color tell you it makes them feel uncomfortable and unsafe? How are you serving your community and these young people by refusing to hear their voices? Why would this board, full of privilege and power, not defer to decisions that protect the most marginalized population on this campus? Please find yourself on the right side of history and submit a formal petition to the Historical Commission to have Silent Sam relocated. I also implore each of you to enroll in racial equity training so that you can begin to develop the skills you need to actually do your job. Thank you.
Our next speaker is Brittany Shepherd.
Hello. Hello, my name is Brittany. I am a graduate student at UNC studying applied math, and today I am here to speak not just as a student, but as a Southerner and who cares very much for history and heritage. It's something I picked up from my grandmother and her work, her genealogical work for the LDS Church and the NSBAR. She was invited to join the UDC, the Nine Daughters of the Confederacy, and she declined, stating that the Confederacy is nothing to be proud of. As we all know, the UDC's campaign to perpetuate the lost cause included putting up a statue modeled after a Yankee and claiming it was for UNC. We put up monuments to people not to reflect on them as flawed individuals, but to enshrine an ideal we say they held. Julian Carr explicitly spells out that the ideal of Silent Sam's shrines is the welfare of the Anglo-Saxon race of the South. The monument isn't about the complexity of the Civil War or reflecting on its causes so it doesn't happen again. Silent Sam is about white supremacy. This fact is not lost to contemporary white supremacists. Many people were surprised by the rise of the alt-right over the past 2 years, but I've watched the movement grow online for the past 10, and I anticipate it's only going to get worse. There's a reason they choose to gather around Confederate monuments. It was clear they didn't go to UVA to reflect on the price of Civil War when they chanted blood and soil. With that in mind, I invite you to reflect on wartime sacrifices with these. These are ration books issued to my grandfather's family. I show them to you because I know it's sometimes hard to viscerally know that there was a time when the existential danger of white supremacy in some form was so severe that we as a nation deemed it necessary that every citizen make sacrifices to fight it. I'm aware that there are some well-meaning people, including even members of my own family, that I have talked to about this, and they've kind of refelt their positions, for whom Confederate monuments, including Silent Sam, is truly an innocuous symbol of heritage, but that was not its intention, and I invite them to celebrate the better aspects of the South. My concern is with those who embrace the original intent of enshrining white supremacy and the physical danger they pose to students and the broader community at UNC. Silent Sam's past is a validation and an open invitation for these contemporary white supremacists who are here today, putting a target up, and that puts a target on the students. As for what action to take, I'll offer the advice of a far wealthier cousin of Mary Lee, Mary Lee is my third great-grandmother. I think it wiser not to keep open the sores of war, but to follow these nations who endeavor to obliterate the marks of civil strife, to commit to oblivion the feelings engendered. We're not responsible for the mistakes of the past, but we are culpable for our own, and we are absolutely personally responsible to correct the mistakes of our predecessors, and to not repeat them, and to not be complacent. Remove silent sound. Thank you. And thank you for your time. And I hope you have a good day.
Our next speaker, Alba Cravey.
Hello, thank you for this opportunity to speak. I'd like to speak about the Confederate monument known as Silent Sam that we've heard many people speak about this afternoon. I'd like to pose the question, what does Silent Sam teach us? What does Silent Sam say? He teaches us to ignore the pain of others. He shows us we can avert our eyes. We can insist on civil discourse. We can walk past violence and injury. We can become accustomed to the sight of uniformed police officers on campus. What does Silent Sam say? He shows us we can have a few Black professors, and that should satisfy us. We can rejoice because we have a few more Black students on campus than other prestigious colleges. We are awash in federal research dollars. Racial justice is on the way. We must wait a little while longer. We must be patient. What does Silent Sam say? He promises us we can learn to manipulate the affirmative action numbers and become a successful chancellor like Carol Folt. We learn this lesson well. We can use words as their opposites and rise to become a president of a university system like Margaret Spellings. We keep studying, we can punish those who speak out and say we are defending free speech like the Board of Governors, the governors who sit on this board. We must focus on our lesson, study our lessons, know our place. Well, I submit to you, it's time for a new lesson. It is time. It is time. It is time to raise up and say no. It is time to raise up and say yes to the truth. A Confederate monument on a pedestal honors white supremacy. It is a monstrosity. It is unacceptable. These lessons that Silent Sam teaches are unacceptable. It's time to insist on racial justice.
Our next speaker is Michael Mole.
Afternoon. My name is Michael, and I am a second-year undergraduate student here at UNC Chapel Hill. I've been involved with the Silent Sam sit-ins since its beginning in August 2017. I want to start by saying that I've always been proud to be a Tar Heel, but I'm embarrassed and ashamed my school has made the decision to preserve an outdated and racist monument that rests on McCorkle Place. Last year, Duke University removed their statue of Robert E. Lee. Here in Chapel Hill, we often pride ourselves on outperforming Duke. This time we allowed them to beat us to it. In fact, we are only one of a handful of universities left in the nation who have kept our Confederate monuments around. That makes us look really bad. During the football season, my friends and I stood by the statue on game days, holding signs and handing out flyers. We tried to educate the general public, but Silent Sam supporters were rarely willing to listen. One of their most common objections is that removing the statue would somehow censor history. Every time we explain why this is not true. The monument was put in place in 1913 during the Jim Crow era, 50 years after the Civil War. As a Jim Crow artifact, it has a lot in common with the whites-only signs that used to hang above the shops around town, which are not around anymore. But Silent Sam still is. If we were indeed a commemorative statue for the Confederate dead, why wasn't it put up immediately after war? Or why wasn't it erected in a cemetery where those soldiers were buried? Instead, it sits at the very front of a public university on a pedestal to intimidate and deter people of color from the school, and to remind those already inside that they are looked upon as inferior. The words and actions of the very people who insist that it is simply a historical object only reaffirm that it is not. The statue inspires them to shout racist insults and sometimes threaten us with physical violence. It is ironic that many of these individuals can't answer simple questions concerning its past, such as when it was erected and who sponsored its creation. We hand out educational flyers that explain these things, but they almost never pay attention. In addition to those facts they are unaware of, no one we talked to is familiar with the dedication speech given by Julian Carr in June of 1913. He said a lot of things there, including remarks that praised white supremacist groups for holding the delusional lost cause mythology of the South. Aside from that, the thing that stands out to me the most is the story he tells about halfway through. The statue's dedication made him excited to recount an occasion where he publicly flogged a black woman simply for insulting a white person. Carr took a sadistic pleasure in mercilessly beating her, and did so less than 100 yards from where Sinus stands now on campus. After the assault, he sought refuge within the confines of the university buildings. The statue tells onlookers that UNC propagates white supremacy, encourages the disenfranchisement of minorities, and tolerates assaulting women. I sincerely hope that UNC Chapel Hill is better than this. Thanks for your time.
Our last speaker for today is Mary Dooley.
Lucky 13.
Hi, folks. Thank you so much for being here. I know you had a long meeting all morning. And wish there were more of you from that meeting, but I'm glad that you are here. I'm a local resident. I'm not an employee of the university. I'm not a graduate of the university. I'm not a very good speaker, but I live in town here, and I'm a taxpayer and a voter. And I just had some family in town, right? They came down, and I was showing them Chapel Hill, and I was all excited. And we came onto the UNC campus, and we went by Silent Sam. And we read, which I'm sure you all know, you're very familiar with, erected under the auspices of the North Carolina Division of the United Daughters of the Confederacy, aided by the alumni of the university. Two of the sons of the university who entered the War of 1861 to 65 in answer to the call of their country, whose lives taught the lesson of their great commander that duty is the sublimest word in the English language. Okay. The thing that hit us was this thing about their country. I'm from the United States of America. I'm an American. Are they speaking about the Confederacy here? Could someone enlighten me? Because the Confederacy was not a country. And this is a very outdated kind of thing. And Silent Sam stands for racism. It stands for treason. Okay, we forgive the secessionists. It was a long time ago, but it's over. And it is time to take that down or put it in its place in a museum where it belongs. I'm trying to be respectful of regional culture and everything, and North Carolina in particular, but this is not a good homage to our environment here, our community, our university. This is one of the greatest universities in the country. And I think it's quite shameful that the first thing you see walking in from Franklin Avenue is this monument to racism. So, yes, the Historical Society, but we also need all of you on board to make that happen. So I'm asking you, please, let's take Sam down. Silent Sam's time is up. Thank you very much.
Thank you all for coming today and expressing your thoughts. We will have your comments recorded and on our public website, where you can go in and see what others are saying also. Thank you for your time today. Have a good day.